better backing down the street. Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, we're going to get started in the new project here in Raleigh, North Carolina. If you've been following the channel for any length of time, there's a playlist on the channel called New House, and you can see how the garden here in Raleigh has come together over the last 4 years. We recently got an agreement from the City Council in Raleigh to expand into a lot that adjoins the Raleigh garden property. Again, the city owns, and we're going to turn it into a native pollinator garden. Native plants mostly to the southeast United States. Well, that video went up like 4 days ago, and then I immediately got on the chip drop website and got 2 loads of wood chips very, very quickly. Felt very lucky and fortunate because the guys who brought them brought us all chipped up material. You can request on the chip drop site, you know, that you're not getting logs and that kind of thing in it. And this is 100% pine. You can see the actual pine straw in it. And then it's just chipped, it's a chipped up pine tree. So we're getting the, we're getting the bark off of it. We're getting the wood part of it. We're getting the branches, the stems, foliage, everything off of it. The nice thing about wood chips that way is that having that green material in it and having the brown material mixed together gets it going really quickly. So you can see this was just dropped off 48 hours ago and it's already smoking. We stood on it to take the photo for this video and it's already warm up there. A little bit of rain last night. I got to get this spread pretty quickly. We're not going to go crazy on amending this soil over here. It will seem like it because I got 2 giant piles of wood chips out here, but this is probably about all we're going to do in terms of amending this soil. I really need to get some. This has just been mowed weeds basically for ever how long, and I've hit some gravel digging over here, so I'm thinking at some point this may have actually been a gravel strip. The city has parked on this in the past when they're doing projects in the neighborhood. Let's say they're reworking a few roads, taking up the old asphalt, whatever. They've actually used this spot and parked heavy equipment on it, so it's quite compact. And again, there's also this gravel layer about 3-4 inches down. So I'll show you this. You can actually see where this truck backed in right here and compacted this a bit. But even with all its weight on a slightly moist day, it only sunk down about, 3/4 of an inch maybe, which, I looked at that and knew immediately how compact, this was. I hadn't done a whole lot of digging over here. We have a clay-based soil here in Raleigh typically. This has been under grass for, again, 75 years or something. So you've got a certain amount of grass clippings, weed clippings over the years that have been added to this. So there's going to be some layer that looks pretty good like that, where there's some organic material in it. And then, from there, you start to get down to where the color changes to the clay. But you can hear this. There's a gravel layer right about there, about 3 to 4 inches down. So I'm thinking this was actually gravel at some point. So what we really want to do here is just get a top dress. There's we got to the actual clay there, which I don't mind clay soils. They can be a little bit hard to work with sometimes, but all the nutrients that the plants would ever need are in it. And as long as we know that the things that would want well-drained soils aren't having to sit way down in it, it'll be fine. The clay is great for the plants as long as the plants that don't like the plants that don't like it aren't sitting way down in it, up to their necks in clay. So anyway, it's compact. It's certainly not the worst case scenario of like New House kind of compact where people have been recently on it, back and forth, but it is compact, and I'd like to alleviate some of that compaction. And the way that we did that over here in this garden was by putting down a layer of wood chips and just letting the natural processes take over at that point of beetles and worms and everything else being able to occupy occupy that space. One thing about this mowed space over here is we mowed it extremely low. And so when you're mowing extremely low and this is a full sun space, and in the summertime it gets super, super hot right here, there's not a lot of life that's going to be down in that soil, right? Because we just kept mowing it off. Once we get this protective layer on top of it where it's going to stay more evenly moist and not as hot all the time, life will be able to survive under here during the extremes, right? What we're trying to do is make sure any beneficial fungi, beneficial bacteria, beneficial worms, beneficial anything has the option of being able to move up and down, through the soil profile freely when it's dry or hot or cold or whatever, wherever they need to survive in there. Currently, there's just not a space for that to happen out here in this just super compacted mowed space. So not going to amend it a crazy amount, but I do want to get a protective layer on it, and this is the least expensive way to do this. I put $20 on the chip drop thing. Allows you to tip the driver or not tip the driver. If you put a small tip on there, they're more likely to come and deliver some, and we had 2 loads immediately put out here. It's loose when you get it, and so I can take this fork right now and I can very quickly go through here, and I can even do it like this. I can spread it easily like this. If I wait 3 weeks, this is it's going to become just a crust in there. The thing's really, really going to heat up. It's going to start to actually use up a lot of my bark. I'm just right here. I found hollow spots in it later on, where it's gotten so hot in the middle of it. So I want to get it spread as fast as know that you're ready for it when you order it, because sometimes it can be 24 hours and sometimes it can be 2 months before you get them. But it's if you know you're going to be ready when you get them, it's the easiest time you're ever going to spread them is right when they come out of the back of the truck. So our paths in our garden are wood chip paths, all the walking trails. So we're going to use a little bit of this to redo our trails over here. I'm not trying to raise the height of them really, but I'd like to get the color kind of crispy on them again. So I'm going to take a little bit of this for that. Otherwise, this 2 loads, which is probably 45 yards, some cubic yards of wood chips total. I need to measure this, and maybe I'll step this off right now. When I say step it off, each of my strides is about a yard, about 3 feet, so I can pretty quickly determine how wide a space is. Not exact. I have a measuring wheel inside if I want to do it exactly, but it's about 3,000 square feet that I'm covering in these wood chips. So I could probably pretty quickly do some math on about how deep this would cover 3,000 square feet, since it's about 45 cubic yards, something like that. So maybe I'll do that math later and figure out exactly how thick this has ended up on average. But it's about 3,000 square feet of new garden space ultimately. And again, we're going to cover it in whatever this ends up being, 5 or 6 inches of wood chips. Got some exciting emails from that initial video that went up the other day. Other people excited about it. So got some stuff from nurseries and from some of you guys watching, and all kinds of exciting emails for potential content for native plants that can go in here later, and things that folks are donating and all kinds of things. So that's kind of fun as we move forward. Got a lot of questions on how this is being financed. So far, very inexpensive wood chips, and it's your guys watching that's going to finance it. The city's not putting any money into this project, and I can do this kind of thing fairly inexpensively. I mean, number one, we'll be going to nurseries and wholesale nurseries, then looking at plants, learning about native plants. We'll be dividing things. People will donate some things. Again, we're using inexpensive materials here to get started. So the cost won't be hopefully all that exorbitant regardless, but you guys watching the channel, being subscribed to the channel, those ads that come up during the videos, that's how this thing gets financed, is that revenue that we make from the channel, from buying t-shirts, the Learn to Garden video series, the weekly garden planner, on and on and on. That's how this gets paid for Thank you guys for allowing us the opportunity to be able to do this, because it's, fun for us, and hopefully will be entertaining for you guys to watch this project come together. I think it's the last day of January as we're filming this. So we're not going to be planting over here. Well, we're going to transplant a few things. I take that back. We're going to transplant a few things over here very soon, which is only maybe 6 plants, something like that. And then additional planting over here will probably be in April, March and April. So I've got, from here forward, I want to get this spread in the next week or so, because again, it gets harder by the minute to do that. I want to get the paths redone out here in the garden. You'll see some of that in another video for garden task in the main garden. And then again, so it's much easier. And I also want to get it breaking down, and I'd like to get it, about 6 inches in depth. By the time April comes around, it'll be half that pretty quickly. This is a clerodendron. It's right on the property line. Non-native, not particularly invasive. There's a few of them in the neighborhood. We are going to leave it. It's right on the right on the line of where the native garden starts on this side of the clerodendron. The reason we're going to leave it is because there's hummingbirds are on this thing all day long. I mean, you can hear them over here arguing with one another about who gets the clerodendron. So we're going to leave that, but then it immediately starts Chinese privet and other invasives that I showed earlier. And it goes back here, 6 or 8 more feet, up into that English ivy. And I want to get that covered in wood chips as well. So we're going to go ahead and saw a lot of this stuff down. I won't be digging those stumps out quite yet. I probably, thinking back on this, probably should have rented a tractor. I mean, at my nursery, I would have just brought the tractor out and had these 2 piles would have been spread in, 30 minutes, and I would have moved on with my day. Same thing with these privet. I would have just put a chain on them and, maybe dug around them some, but, I would have just pulled them out of the ground. But here in the Raleigh garden here, I've, I sold all my tools when I closed the nursery and the garden center down. Big toys, I should call them. I sold my toys. Now I'm using hand tools here. Isn't that big of a deal? It's not bad for us to, get out here and do these kinds of things. But again, I think the best way probably would have been to take a tractor in here and pull these saplings out and then spread this with the tractor and moved on with my life. But here I am. I'm spreading it with this fork. But I'm just going to saw them to the ground for now, and then suckers are going to try to come back up on them pretty quickly. We'll dig them out over the next few months. It's really kind of dry. This is the driest. You saw some moisture in there when I've dug that little hole over there, but it should be actually just sopping wet right this minute. The fact that this guy was even able to back up in here in January is kind of amazing, because normally it's a normally there's standing water down at the bottom of this lot. So it's, again, really dry, and we're in a moderate drought on the National Drought Monitor. What else, Steph? We're going to say in this video, we're going to get some of this. So we're going to stop talking and get some of this work done. It's what we're going to do, because, again, the faster you can get these things spread, the easier the project actually is. So thank you guys so much for following along with this. We're going to be visiting some nurseries, gathering up some plants. There's going to be all kinds of interesting content. We're going to be building a small entry fence up in the front. It'll be another low fence like I did for the other project, but it'll be different design. Just want to offer up a different design, the one that I used to use quite a bit when my landscaping days. I'm going to do for the entry to this the native pollinator garden over here. So thank you guys so much for following along. And again, this has been put into a playlist called Native Garden. And if you want to make sure that you're following along with that playlist, you'll be able to go through every video as we develop this little 3,000 square foot new garden space here in Raleigh. Thanks for watching. come closer.
Smells so good.
It does. Okay.